Oh, hello. Welcome once again to Stuff and Things, where I like to talk about stuff and occasionally even things. I'm your good friend Bradley, and today is a Sunday Stuff and Things, and on this Sunday Stuff and Things, we have stuff and things to talk about, including upcoming videos, things you can look forward to on Stuff and Things YouTube and Stuff and Things Patreon. We're going to talk about the response to the first impressions video of the Cornell and Deal version of Seattle Pipe Club Mississippi River. Interesting stuff there. I want to talk about photo books and how expensive they can be. If you are into photography like me and you want to look back at some of the seminal work of the past, so you kind of know where we've come from and where we're going and all that stuff, it can be quite difficult because they're so expensive. Many of them are out of print, so I just recorded a video about that, and we'll talk a little bit about that in the Sunday video, and then I'm going to point you to that video that will be coming out. We'll, of course, have your questions, comments, and feedback in hashtag askstuffandthings, and we will end the show, as usual, with our Patreon shout-outs and updates. Let's get into it. Yes. All right, so what can you look forward to on Stuff and Things YouTube and Stuff and Things Patreon? Well, the next video coming up is the Goo Universal Dust Cleaning Gel by Pulidiki. It seems like a really dumb topic for a video, but this goo has changed my life. And I wanted to tell you about the goo. And so that video will be coming up this week, Monday on Patreon, early and ad-free, and then Wednesday on YouTube. Then next week, we will have the full review, the final verdict on the Seattle Pipe Club Cornell and Deal version of Mississippi River. Interesting stuff. We'll get into the response that you had for the first impressions video. And then after that, we will go through, or there will be a video about photo books that are widely available at a reasonable price for some seminal photographers. So here's a big old book by Henri Cartier-Bresson. Well, it's not by him, but it collects a lot of his work. Very important seminal photographer. A photo book of Gary Winogrand's color photos, another very important photographer. A survey of photographer Bruce Davidson, who was an extremely interesting social documentary photographer from the 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s. I mean, he's still around, still doing photographs. The Americans by Robert Frank, an extremely seminal book. And then, Walker Evans' American Photographs. So these are all currently available as of the recording of this video on Amazon.com. So I did a video about each and every one of those books. Pretty cool. Lots more good stuff coming up on Stuff and Things YouTube and Stuff and Things Patreon, so stay tuned. Next, the video, or the first impressions video for, the Seattle Pipe Club Mississippi River Cornell and Deal version. I don't know how to actually say this properly, because if you just say Mississippi River, there's a huge difference between the very original version, the Sutliff version, and this version. I think there was even another version in there somewhere too. This is the Cornell and Deal version. They just came out with these. They're doing a few other of the Seattle Pipe Club blends after STG purchased McFadin, and through McFadin's Sutliff, they discontinued pretty much every blend. Sutliff was making the Seattle Pipe Club blends, and now Cornell and Deal is making some of them, including Plum Pudding, Mississippi River. I was extremely negative about this blend in my first impressions video. So you should go and watch it if you're a Patreon supporter, but basically I said that there was this really sour, vinegary flavor. And that isn't necessarily bad in a pipe blend, but it was just too much in this one, and it really overpowered everything else. So we have some of your feedback here. We're going to incorporate this into this part of the show. So Alex, a Patreon supporter on Patreon, said, "I've read several reviews of this version on the internet. Sour note is a common denominator. However, not this bad. Maybe you got a defective tin." Then our good friend Les Brady says, "Yeah, same as what Alex said. Maybe undetected trouble on the production floor that day. Sorry you had to go through that, but your reaction was priceless." And then we have Penterax who says, "That was my first thought. Something went wrong with the quality control on this batch. Maybe? Hopefully?" Reminds me of when Costello released some teas with their name on it. I bought several of them. No one was supposed to be, and one was supposed to be a Latakia blend, but had no Latakia in it. I contacted Smoking Pipes and they offered to send me another tin. Fearing another with the same problem, I asked them to open the tin and make sure it had Latakia, which they agreed to do. They went through something like 30 tins before they found one with the proper Latakia content. Wow. Great service from them. I was grateful they went to so much trouble. Yeah, that's kind of crazy. So I don't think that somebody accidentally poured, there was like some weird snafu where someone, oops, and like poured a bunch of chemicals into this blend. I can't say this for sure without having other blends, other batches, but to me, the flavor was quite overpowering and quite unappealing, but not not completely outside the realm of possibility, I suppose, to where I would think, oh, something definitely went wrong with this. I just really didn't like it at all. I didn't think it tasted almost anything like, well, I didn't think it tasted very much like the Sutliff version. There were aspects of it that tasted more like the original version, but the vinegary, there was this kind of vinegary barbecue-y flavor to the original version, the very, very original version that I reviewed, in 2014 or whenever that was. This has that, but then the vinegary quotient of it is just so much amplified in this that it overpowers almost everything else. I don't know. I don't know that I want to try to get another tin to try again and see if there's any difference. I will say that the initial first impression, it was more apparent to me and more gross and annoying. And even though I never ended up liking this, you'll see the final review coming up in a couple weeks on Stuff and Things Patreon. It was never quite as strong as that initial first impression that I got. So yeah, I don't really think anything necessarily went wrong with this. I just don't think I like it. It's weirdly one of the worst blends I've ever had, which is kind of crazy coming from C&D, because usually C&D makes really great stuff. And it's kind of a different, I guess I'm expecting more from Cornell & Diehl. It'd be different if I was having some sort of, Captain Black blend or something like that, some drugstore blend. I expect more from C&D, and I was trying to get my head around whether or not someone who just has a taste for the certain flavor profile that's in this blend would really enjoy it. And I still can't really imagine it. I don't know. I'd love to hear from people. I mentioned it last week. Anyone who really likes this Cornell & Diehl version of Mississippi River, tell me why in the comments, because I'm not feeling it at all. So we've already kind of done a little preview of this, and there will be a full video incoming, but if any of you, like me, are into are into photography or photo books, you may have discovered, as you were looking for certain photographers' work online, that many seminal photo books that all sorts of people reference all the time by really famous photographers are out of print. And when they're out of print, when you try to purchase them, you will find them maybe on a used book site or something. They can be hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of dollars. Now, I know that the audience for purchasing a book that Gary Winogrand originally put out in 1973 or something is probably not huge, so I can understand maybe that these books wouldn't be republished or reprinted over and over again. But especially with a photographer like Gary Winogrand, not a single one of his originally published photo books is currently available, is currently in print. Not a single one. And he is often cited as one of the most important and most influential documentary/street photographers of the 20th century. You can't find any of his books currently in print. And I just find that baffling. And you'll find this with a lot of different really famous photographers. And so you can look up their work online and everything, but it's still not the same as having the book in hand and being able to see the sequencing of the images as a physical thing on a piece of paper. It's just a completely different feel than just looking at it on a screen. So I'm always looking for photo books. I'm looking for books that are reasonably priced. And I have been able to find some on Amazon that have been reprinted by companies like Aperture, the Museum of Modern Art in the US, Magnum Photos re-releases books sometimes. So I wanted to do an entire video where I talked about 5 of the books that I've been able to find. And some of these aren't original collections of photographs. They are kind of surveys that have been done after the fact. So one of them, Henri Cartier-Bresson, this is just a giant survey of his entire life's work. Very cool. This one, the only Gary Winogrand book I've been able to get, it's Winogrand Color, so it's not any of his original publications. These are kind of, he never really did much in color, but he did do some color throughout his entire career. So this is a collection of some of his color work. So it's not the seminal photographs that you've seen. It's kind of an alternate take on his work. Interesting and cool, but still not really what I'm looking for, but it's a really good book. Walker Evans, American Photographs. This is insanely popular. Well, popular. It's extremely influential and really important. Originally published in 1938, and this version of it is beautiful. This was published by the Museum of Modern Art, and they tried to, as closely as possibly, recreate the original 1938 version of this book. Very cool. The Americans by Robert Frank, another extremely important, influential book. This was originally published in 1958 in France and then in 1959 in the US. Has a foreword by Jack Kerouac. This is hugely influential and amazing that you can still get this. You can get this brand new on Amazon. And then I got this really cool survey of photographer Bruce Davidson, who did a lot of social documentary photography. The series that I was really looking for by him was one called Brooklyn Gang, 1959. And if that evokes a certain image in your head, the actual series of photographs is even cooler than what you might be thinking about. And I've always been looking for that. That book is impossible to get. It's thousands of dollars if you can find it. This has a good portion of the photos from that series and a good portion of photos from a lot of the other series that he did. And so I did a whole video talking about these books, where you can get them, how much they cost. So you should check that out coming up on Stuff and Things. Man, these are heavy. Soon. Ah, jeez. Almost tipped over my chair there. All right. But now it is time for hashtag Ask Stuff and Things. Remember, if you have a question for me and you would like it answered on the Sunday Stuff and Things, you can tweet at SAT Bradley with the hashtag Ask Stuff and Things, but you probably shouldn't because nobody does, and I never read Twitter/X anyway. If you are a Patreon supporter, you can write to me via Patreon, go right to the front of the line, or you can hit that super thanks button under this video and go right to the front of the line, or you can leave questions, comments, and feedback in the comment section of my YouTube videos. First of all, we have some feedback from Ted Stryker, our good friend and Patreon supporter. So this is via Patreon. Ted Stryker says, quote, nerdly, new word unlocked. It can't be undone. I guess I used the term nerdly in last week's Sunday Stuff and Things. Admittedly, I often have to glance down more than once to read subtitles. So there was a lot of response about my take on subtitles. I didn't realize it was going to hit as much of a nerve. So thank you for all that response or all that feedback. But I have a bit of post-traumatic brain injury, dyslexia. Wow. Still, it's not nearly so much of an inconvenience that I'd rather listen to dubbed versions. That said, I don't really mind if someone does watch dubbed versions of media either. It's that whole liberty thing. I think I heard somebody say once, you know? Yeah, and I don't mind either. What annoys me is when people claim that the dubbed version is inherently better than the subtitled version, which is never true. I'm going to die on that hill. The dubbed version is never better. It's always worse. If someone prefers that, fine, but don't try to claim that it's better. It's never better. Never better. Next, at Michael Case 8574 says, in the 60s, I would go to art houses to watch movies. If you don't like reading subtitles, then you would be lost. Or if you didn't like reading subtitles, you would be lost. Remember, in most of the spaghetti westerns, there were international actors all acting together, every one of them speaking their native languages while acting. They were all dubbed. Yeah, I mean, obviously there are examples of things that the dubbed version is the only version available. So if you want to watch The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly, I just find it hilarious that, so an Italian director gets some American actors, some Italian actors, and they go to Spain to film and get a lot of extras and other actors from Spain. So there's people speaking Spanish, Italian, English. Like, it's just hilarious to me. And you can obviously tell, like, obviously it's still Clint Eastwood's voice, but it was dubbed in later. Next we have at Kenjiro5775, who says, the only issue I see and hear is that subtitles sometimes miss out on nuanced conversation, idiomatic language, and the variety of expressions. The transcribers do their best, but in a literary sense, they often miss stuff that is culturally based. Yeah, but I also think that that happens even more in the dubs, because I have noticed, you know, I always love to say that I know a little Japanese. I know a very little Japanese, but I still will catch things sometimes when I'm reading the subtitles, and I'll see, we're like, oh, they didn't actually say that. Like, what's a good example recently? The character on the actual audio of what the character was saying was, oh, really, basically, in translation. But in the subtitles, they said, I agree. And it's like, it's not really what he meant, but it kind of is what he meant. Like, it's not literally what he said, but it's kind of capturing what he meant. There's things like that I see all the time. But then I will watch, sometimes I'll see a dubbed version of something I've already seen in subtitles, and you'll see that they'll often completely change, especially in things like anime, where there will be more, let's say, risque things that are okay in Japan that they think, oh, in international or in a US version of this, we don't want to say this thing because it'll be kind of pervy or weird, or things that are just, you can get away with in Japan, but you can't get away with here. They will just flat out change the dialogue in the dub. And so I think in general, the subtitles are usually more accurate because they're not changing necessarily. The words are there. They're saying this in their native language, and so you have to kind of say what they're actually saying. If you're dubbing it over, who knows what they were saying originally. But interesting points. Next we have at Ledger and Lace, who says, I don't like that word supremacist. I would say I'm a subtitle snob. And yeah, and I use that because that's what the people who criticize people who prefer subtitles use, because they're trying to be derisive towards them. They say, oh, you're a subtitle supremacist. And so I'm claiming that word. Like, yeah, subtitles are supreme. I like French film series, and if it's dubbed, you miss the tone and rhythm of the voice, etc. I once tried to watch The Devil Wears Prada dubbed in French for practice, and it was awful. Part of Meryl Streep's performance is her understated low-tone voice, so it works both ways. The subtitle debate is sort of audiobook adjacent. I think both boil down to reading and how quickly you do it. It's faster for me to read than to listen. Yeah, me too. But I do enjoy listening to a good book if I'm running errands or doing household tasks, etc. P.S. I watched some of the Brit Awards yesterday and thought of you as Henry Styles was surrounded by gyrating dancers. I've heard the name. Don't really know who he is. Yeah, so I remember in Spanish class in high school, we watched Raiders of the Lost Ark in a Spanish dub, and it was hilarious. I remember Indiana Jones's voice was amazing. At Ortsilanda says, I agree with you regarding the subtitles. By the way, I'm also looking forward to start printing, enlarging some of my photos in a darkroom. Recently, I discovered that a photography school from my city rents their darkroom by the hour. That's very cool. I wish we had that here. We have a university here. It's a Western Washington University. I forgot the name of the college in my town, the university in my town. They have a darkroom, but there's no way to access that unless you are a student. There used to be this kind of co-op darkroom that people would, I don't know if they just paid like a monthly fee or something and they could go use it. That went away. We have a photo store in town that does do, I think they'll do black and white developing, and they have a darkroom for printing, and I think it's possible to get in there. And I need to do some research on that, but I don't know, like, could I go in there for hours at a time, which is kind of what it would take because I haven't done darkroom printing in so long that I would really need to get my head around it again, especially dodging and burning and all that stuff. So I don't know. I really want to get into that and really want to start doing that soon. So that is something I'm going to look forward to, or I'm going to look into in this coming year. But thanks for all that feedback. Please keep it coming in. It really helps make the show go. But now, gang, it is time for the very best part of the show, and that is where we thank our Patreon supporters. Remember, if you would like to support Stuff and Things on Patreon, there is a link in the description box below, and it would be much appreciated. With YouTube being what it is now, there is pretty much no chance of earning any sort of income on YouTube. So your support on Patreon is what makes it possible for me to keep making these videos. If you like anything that I do on YouTube, and if you're curious about seeing what is exclusive on Patreon, $5 a month gets you in. You will have early ad-free access to all the videos I post on YouTube. You'll get them early and ad-free on Patreon. And then you will get exclusive Patreon-only videos if you have any interest in the pipe hobby or anything like that. All those videos have to go on Patreon. We're also building up an archive of all the old videos that used to be on YouTube that got taken off. Now they're going on Patreon. And even if you're not interested in any of that pipe stuff, your support just makes it possible for me to keep doing the stuff that you do like on YouTube. So every week we like to shout out those who support us at $25 or more a month, the producers of Stuff and Things. People like Jason Buckner, Arcturus, Ashes of the Phoenix, The Friendly Piper, GreatGrol, Glenn, Just Glenn, David Severin, Nicholas James, Kyle Whitmore, Mr. Gibson, Chris Caughey, and Ryan McFadin. And of course, the Maniacs, the crazy people who support Stuff and Things at $100 a month. People like the stolid and dependable Bob Magee. And we'll never forget our dearly departed friend and Hall of Fame member, Peter Straub. Gang, what can you look forward to on Stuff and Things Patreon this week? Well, on Monday, you will have the early and ad-free version of Goo. And then on Thursday, the video about the Goo. And then on Thursday, from the archive, Bell's Three Nuns review. Originally posted on October 19th of 2016. A fun blend, one that I haven't had in a while. There were several different versions of Three Nuns, and I think I reviewed all of them, but it's been years since I have had any of those blends. So I'll look forward to checking that out when I'm posting that video. You should check it out on Patreon if you are a supporter. And until next time, until we meet again, I've been your good friend Bradley. You've been the audience. This has been Stuff and Things on a Sunday Stuff and Things. I'll see you later.